Hello, and welcome everyone. This is the Shine Beyond Cancer Show. This show is designed for anyone who's been diagnosed, currently going through treatment, or is now cancer-free. We know you did not choose to be on this team. We didn't either, but we kicked cancer's ass, and we are here to provide you inspiration, hope, and the tools you desire to manage the confusion and anxiety. We deliver you a remarkably detailed game plan for you to achieve clarity, strength, and purpose, no matter where you are on this journey. We are here to quarterback you through all aspects of your life so that you too shine beyond cancer to live a vibrant, abundant life. However, we are not here to treat, diagnose, or cure any illness or disease. We are making no medical or income claims. Let's get started with the show. Here are your co-hosts. From Wall Street to 9/11 first responder volunteer to wellness warrior and cancer thriver, Mark Slew. And from mom to marketer to master trainer and cancer thriver, Lisa Diamond.
Hi everybody, welcome to Shine Beyond Cancer. I'm Lisa Diamond and this is episode number 14.
And I'm Mark Slew, and we have the pleasure of having a staple of Naples down here, a man who's well respected in the neighborhood and well respected among the whole community, Mr. Frank Adatore. So Frank has been
Dr.
Dr. Frank Adatore. Frank's been a Naples resident for about 32 years, and Frank's got a fantastic story that we want him to share with you guys. So we're going to let Frank take over and tell a little bit of his story right now.
Hi, I'm Frank Adatore, and I came down here from Ohio after studying to become an OBGYN. I ended up coming here because many of the doctors that were at the hospitals I worked at kept recommending Naples as a great place to live and retire to, and I just decided that rather than wait to retire, I would come down here right after I finished my residency. I started practicing here in 1984, and I have a wife and 3 lovely children, and had a very successful practice until 1996 when I was playing tennis and had a seizure. I woke up in the MRI machine and was kind of confused as to what happened, and it ended up that the MRI showed that I had some sort of brain tumor, and ended up being a malignant tumor. I had very good doctors in Naples. We traveled around to different places, from Boston to at Mass General with our radiation oncologist, to MD Anderson, to see what would be the best way to treat this kind of cancer. The cancer I had had a very bad prognosis. Anyway, I had my chemo and radiation here in Naples, which I'd highly recommend for anyone who does come down with cancer to try to be treated locally, as the doctors here are excellent and they came from the best places in the country. Remarkably, the cancer went away after a couple years of radiation and chemotherapy, and I started practicing again. However, I had some side effects from the cancer and the chemo, and ended up retiring in 2004. I spent my time working on being an athlete every day, doing chores around the house, being a dad, and then about 12 years ago, one of my daughters wanted to play lacrosse, and they needed a lacrosse coach, and that was kind of the thing that inspired me to do something else, and I've been a lacrosse coach at Naples High School ever since, and
A volunteer coach, correct?
Right, I'm
Not
a volunteer
paid.
coach. No, I'm
Because that's what we're all about. We're all about contribution, and this man is the head of contribution down here in Naples.
So it's probably one of the best things I did was volunteering as a lacrosse coach at Naples High School.
So Frank, when you woke up in the MRI machine and realized what was going on, your family realized what was going on, what was the prognosis and what was the feeling of the family, and how did you guys get over that initial shock?
It was tough, really tough on my wife and my parents and brothers and sisters that I was the model for good health. I mean, I ate well, I exercised every day. I've always been a proponent of good health was based on what you ate and exercising. So it was a shock to everybody. I was 42 years old, and suddenly, I had this life-threatening brain cancer that very few people survive.
What's the survival rate of where you had? What is the name of what you had?
An anaplastic astrocytoma. It's a fancy word. There's different stages, grades 1, 2, 3, 4. Mine was a 3, maybe 4. Some question as to what kind it was.
So you said, let me ask you a question.
Sure.
You said you took, you had chemo.
Yes.
And it's my understanding now that they don't do chemo for brain
They
cancer.
do. They just use different types of.
Okay. That there's like a block or a brain block that it doesn't go to the brain. Is that
Well,
not
that's
true?
the hard part. There's a blood-brain barrier that keeps a lot of chemos from penetrating into the brain, but they do have some that are like fat-soluble kind
Okay.
of chemos that can penetrate through the blood-brain barrier. So.
Okay, and were you doing chemo and radiation at the same time, or was it one protocol and then the...
They're still trying to work out what's the best way to treat it, because again, the prognosis for this type of brain cancer is not very good. I mean, you see it all the time in like senators and that sort of thing that you've heard of, like the Kennedys and that sort of thing, that no matter what you do, that doesn't seem to prevent the cancer from progressing. There's a senator from Arizona.
John McCain.
John McCain.
He had that
Yeah.
same cancer, and he had the best that you could get, and the results weren't good for him. So what the best treatment for it keeps changing year to year. What chemo, do you do surgery, do you not do surgery?
So they didn't do surgery at that time?
Well, it depends on the part of the brain. For
Right.
me, I wanted to keep on practicing, and my cancer was in the posterior lower temporal lobe, which is the area for speech and for reading. And when they operate on that area, that you tend to have some serious side effects.
Sure.
But it hampered me from practicing, so I chose not to have that and just went with the radiation and the chemo.
So how did you keep your and your family's spirits up during this whole? How long did it last, by the way, and how did you keep the spirits up?
Well, I think, I was a gynecologist, and so I treated people who had like ovarian cancer and uterine cancer. And the thing I found was in treating people, there's two types of people. One who said, "Oh, this is horrible," and they just want to lay on the couch and cry, and oh, it was too tough, the chemo, and those people did not do well.
Right.
Whereas I had the other ones that were really upbeat and positive. Okay, we've got this, doctor.
Yes.
Don't worry.
Both of us.
What do we need to do? I want to get started right now.
Right.
Those people did well, and so I tried to emulate that personality type, and it worked for me.
That's
It doesn't
great.
work for everybody. Was a very fortunate person.
So
Yeah.
how many, I have to, this
Go.
is totally off track of cancer, but you were just talking about delivering babies. How many babies have you delivered in this town? And do you still run into them?
Over 3,000.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
There are 30,000 people walking around this city.
I think
that-
the babies are having babies.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. How old were your children when you were diagnosed?
Oh gosh, I can't remember. The youngest one was 4, I think.
Wow.
So,
Yeah, Mark and I both had kids at different ages when we were diagnosed and going through treatment as well. And I've always said that was the hardest part for me, was like telling my daughters.
well, I don't know how much they understood.
Right,
Pretty
if
much
they were
it was
young,
just,
yeah.
Dad's isn't well, and but he's going to get better.
Tell our audience how your career changed, because a lot of people that are watching have lost their careers because they needed to stop. And how do you feel when you started a new career and you said it was the best thing that ever happened to you?
Well, when there was a big hole in my day when I stopped practicing, because I would work 12-hour days most of the time. So when I stopped practicing, I filled that time with doing things around the house that I would always just tell my wife, call the plumber or the painter or whatever. So I ended up doing a lot of things around the house. That free time gave me the opportunity to focus on my wellness. So I spent time exercising, working on my flexibility, agility, that sort of thing. So I focused on being an athlete. And when you exercise hard, it releases a thing called endorphins in your brain, and that gives you a positive, upbeat kind of feeling. And so I pretty much focused on working around the house and being an athlete and spending more time with my kids, which I liked. And so it was great for a while. And then I have to say, after a few years, I started feeling like I'm not doing anything for society or something. And
Right.
I got on the board of hospice, so I did that for 5 or 6 years, and that was a great experience. Hospice does great things for people in tough situations at the end of life. And then the opportunity to be a lacrosse coach and volunteer lacrosse coach and work with young kids. And my daughter was great for 5 years. I got to coach my youngest daughter, which I missed out on the older girls because I was working so much, but I had this opportunity to spend almost every day for 4 or 5
Wow.
years with my youngest daughter, which was really great.
And now he coaches my youngest daughter with the same passion I'm sure you did with your daughter. My daughter and every girl on the Naples lacrosse team just idolizes this man. He's gives it 1,000% as a volunteer, day in, day out. It's just a model to anybody who just wants to just volunteer and give back.
Well, I start coaching a lot of the kids when they're in elementary school and middle school and then high school, and over the years they become like adopted kids to me. You get to be close with them. It's exciting to see the metamorphosis kids go through when they're 8 years old, and then they're 12, and then they're 16. It's just a really satisfying thing to see the change and see
We
how
all
they grow
thank you
up.
for that in
That's
Naples
awesome.
lacrosse.
So, 2 more questions. One, when you got that cancer-free, the tumor was gone?
Yes, the tumor, it didn't show up, and I was getting MRIs like every 3 months to see what happened in the after the radiation, and then the chemo started to shrink and got smaller and smaller. Eventually, it wasn't visible on the MRI, and so few people had survived the cancer that there really was no protocol for when do you stop the chemo. So I just stayed on the chemo until the side effects from the chemo were serious enough that we just decided to just stop it and see what happened. So we stopped the chemo and nothing happened.
20 years later, right?
That's
great.
awesome. That's awesome. Well, we're really glad that you were able to be here and share your story. I know that you will be an inspiration
Absolutely.
for people. One of my very dear, closest friends right now has brain cancer, and he's fighting it. I mean, the tumor just got smaller. We just got that news last Monday. So It's awesome. You just provided a ton of hope for people out there, and so I'm sure you've watched every episode we've ever done. But we always end our show with something like a tip or a nugget that our viewers could take away and put into action today. And what would you leave our audience with today?
If I was going to pick one thing, I'd say when you first are diagnosed with cancer or any kind of terrible life-threatening health diseases, to have your family help you. You're going to get overwhelmed by well-wishers who are going to send you emails or cards or call you up, and your focus needs to be on getting better. Count on my wife or my parents or your family to kind of thank those people for their well wishes, but you can't respond to all those well wishers because it's just overwhelming, and you're not feeling well, and it's you're just not going to be able to spend that much time responding.
Or the energy, right? I mean, not that you don't appreciate it, because you do, but it's the energy. You've got to reserve that for yourself to heal and to fight.
Yeah, I had thousands of letters, and
Well, you delivered 3,000 babies. Of course you have thousands of letters.
First I was trying to answer them all, and after, a couple hundred, it's just like, I can't do it anymore.
Right.
It was causing me stress. And so
That's the last thing you need when you're going through what you're going through.
I have stress.
Exactly.
Frank, we're honored, and we thank you so much for being on this episode, and continued health, continued spirit, coaching the girls like you always do, and we greatly appreciate you being here with us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And so, since you've seen every episode, we end with a little goodbye. And so, until next episode,
keep shining.
Thank you for watching and listening to the Shine Beyond Cancer Show, the #1 cancer survival guide show for people wanting to kick cancer's ass and take their life to the next level. Be sure to visit our Facebook group, Shine Beyond Cancer, or head over to shinebeyondcancer.com to join the conversation, access the show notes, and discover our fantastic bonus content. Until next time, keep shining.